Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from thousands of successful individuals from around the world. I'm your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a respected biotech entrepreneur from Delhi, India, Dr. Debajyoti Dhar. Debajyoti, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ashutosh. Thanks for the kind invitation.
Thank you. Dr. Dhar is the co-founder and director of Leucine Rich Bio Private Limited. He's been nominated as a member of the expert committee constituted by the Government of India on Functional Foods, and he's the co-author of a book titled I Microbiome: A Secret to a Healthy and Balanced Human Body. So, Debjyoti, before we start talking about leucine, tell me a little bit about your early journey and what drew you to molecular biology.
Well, Ashutosh, I think scientists are not made; they are born. So
Mhm.
I remember even in the morning. In fact, I was remembering that during my childhood days, I had this inquisitiveness of finding out about how things work.
Hmm.
And I had a tree in my house, and I still remember that I used to take some scalpel and scissor and cut the leaves just to see the fluid coming out and wondering what is this all
Hmm.
about. So
Hmm.
I think that streak was there in my childhood, since my childhood.
Hmm.
But then when I started, my formal education into advanced, let's say, biology, especially during my graduation when I started working or studying biochemistry, then I realized the depth of this particular domain.
Hmm.
Completely fell in love with immunology, molecular biology, different aspects of biochemistry during those days.
Hmm.
And then the journey continued. I did my post graduation in biomedical science, and then I got an opportunity to do my PhD from Indian Institute of Science. That actually opened a lot of the vistas, as you may put it,
Hmm.
because IIC is one of the premier institutes, not only in India but across the world. It's
Right.
considered for science. So
Hmm.
that opened a lot of new thoughts in my mind. And that's how the journey started, and still continuing. I mean, as you
Absolutely.
know, I mean, this is a domain where you have to keep studying every day.
Hmm. I agree. And I'll say the rest is history. But tell me, after your postdoctoral experience in the US, how did that shape your approach to research and innovation? And what was the inspiration to shift from academia to becoming an entrepreneur?
Glad you asked this question, Ashutosh, because not many people ask this question to me. Well, look, whenever a person completes his or her PhD from India, the next step is to go out for the postdoctoral research
Correct.
experience, and majority prefer United States for its institutes and universities.
Yeah.
That is on offer. So I went to UMass Medical School, although my stay was not very long. But then, you know what? I'm not against academia as such, but I had seen the best of academia both in India and also in the United States.
Hmm.
And I have this inquisitive bug in me, so I just wanted to know how research is done in the industry. Because in academia I had seen how research is done, how papers are published, and so on and so forth. But that inquisitiveness to look at research being done in industry was something that propelled me to go into that zone.
Hmm.
Not many people during my time, I'm talking about 2000, 8 9, would leave academia and go to industry because the trend was not there.
Right.
But somehow, I took that leap of faith and decided to come back to India and join a company which was actually a very unique company, if you ask me, even today, because
Hmm.
that company used to work on drug discovery,
Hmm.
and it was a standalone drug discovery company,
Hmm.
and we used to work on type 2 diabetes. So it gave
Hmm.
me a kind of good start to look at how research is done in industry.
Hmm.
And then I moved on from there. I did pharma consultancy, then I was in a genomics company, heading their global business unit, corporate communications, and so on and so forth. So
Amazing.
but R&D will never leave you, so you have
Correct.
to come back to R&D if you are a scientist. So
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah. Yeah. I
happened to me.
agree. I agree. So let's talk about Leucine Rich Bio Private Limited. Tell
Sure.
me about Leucine Rich Bio Private Limited, the scope of work that you do, and how did you go about turning your idea into a reality?
Right. So Ashutosh, me and my co-founders, Mr. Prabhat and Mr. Kumar, we were together at Connexus Life Sciences, that the drug discovery company that I just mentioned, which I had joined after coming back from the US. They were in the dry lab, I was in the wet lab. So we had met and interacted for some time. And then, as I said, I moved on and they also moved on. And then in 2014, we came back together to start this company called Leucine Rich Bio. See, that at that point of time, because I had moved on to pharma consultancy and genomics, I had seen certain lacunae in the industry. And my other fellow co-founders, they are basically they were into bioinformatics and systems biology. They had also seen certain lacunae in the industry. So we started working on addressing those lacunae. And in that course, we found out that microbiome, which I will be speaking about in detail, is something that was upcoming at that point of time. And I remember there was only one company of repute, that was Ubiome, which is now defunct, which was based in United States. And they had started this citizen science project where they were taking stool samples from citizens across US and try to profile the microorganisms in it. So microbiome basically is a sum total of the genome of all the microorganisms. And then we realized that we had an expertise in bioinformatics, biology, systems biology, and computational biology. So we thought, looking at microbiome, which is a very complicated and complex domain, because you are looking at trillions of microorganisms and also the host, which is human in this case, can we do something in that zone? So that's how we started working on BugSpeaks, which is the South Asia's first gut microbiome test. It took at least 2 to 3 years for us to build the R&D, the back end of what we have done. And that's how the journey started. And I'm very proud to tell you, Ashutosh, that we were the pioneers in this microbiome domain across South Asia and Southeast Asia. Because in 2017-18, when we launched BugSpeaks, people didn't know about microbiome testing. Now, gut health, even gut microbiome is a buzzword. If you see advertisements also, you will see, take more fiber because fiber is good for health, prebiotics, probiotics. I can take some credit, not I personally, our company can take some credit of bringing this awareness in the public. And so that's how it started. 2017, 2018, we launched BugSpeaks. And to just give you a small fact, we use a technology called next generation sequencing, which is a high-end technology. And this is the same technology which was used during COVID to screen, the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And this is the same technology that is used to, sequence a human genome. So it was a very, difficult niche and expensive technology. So I remember our first test when we launched it, it used to cost 34,000. And our challenges were enormous. We were a very small company, very limited budget, mostly bootstrapped. And we had to take on a new segment, which was hitherto unknown. And that too coming at a price point which was very expensive, right? So we had to break those, barriers slowly. We're still working on it. But thankfully now, because of the awareness and COVID also helped us a lot. I mean, I will tell you in this due course of our interaction, that also helped us a lot in creating awareness about gut health, the role of gut in the immunity and so on and so forth. So in doing so, in 2021, we won the National Startup Award constituted by Government of India. We were the first winner of the inaugural award. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we could not go in person to receive the award, but we received it by post. And then we also launched another brand called Rich Biome, which is basically a nutraceutical brand. And the reason we launched this brand was because in our report, there are certain sections where we provide information about probiotics and stuff like that. And many of our clients or patients were unable to, get those probiotics in the market. So we thought, let's make a brand which will be based on data, Indian data, or microbiome science. And that's how Rich Biome product was launched. And I'm happy to share that there are now more than 7 SKUs in that particular brand, all based on microbiome science or microbiome data.
Amazing. But for my viewers and listeners, can you explain in simple terms the role of the human microbiome and why it matters in our health so much.
Sure. Look, I whenever I go for any presentation, I start with this line. Surf Excel had a very interesting ad called "Daag Achhe Hain."
Mm,
And I always start with saying that "Kitanu Achhe Hain," microbes are also good.
mm,
Uh, See, when starting from our birth, we are surrounded by organisms, microorganisms which we can't see. They are on our skin, they are inside our body, uh, at different niches, starting from your nostrils to your lungs to your, intestine. Of course, harbors the maximum number of microorganisms.
mm,
So these microorganisms, they play a very important role into what we are as a human.
mm,
Okay, they shape our immunity, they shape our ability to digest certain foods, they shape our overall personality also, because there is a lot of research and talk on gut brain axis. The fact that before any presentation or before any exam we feel butterflies in the stomach, that
mm,
is nothing but your gut is talking to your intestine basically.
mm,
So these organisms, uh, they are not dormant, they are there to do a certain job. And
mm,
if you look at in terms of biology, Ashutosh, nothing is there just for the heck of it. There
mm,
has to be a reason why things are there evolutionarily also. So these microorganisms have evolved with us, they are there to do certain job, and in return they also get certain things from us, right? So
mm,
that's why they are called commensals.
mhm,
So starting from building your immunity to your wellness in terms of your digestion of food, etc., production of neurotransmitters, for example, all these activities are done by the microorganisms which are residing on your body and inside your body.
mm,
Now we understand the role of these microorganisms, but there's a line which I normally use, that the science is old, the microbiome science is very old, but the technology is very new to
mm,
understand this science, right?
mm, mm.
So I hope I could
No, you
answer.
have answered and part of it, but obviously, there's so much in this science. But moving on, um, how does your work intersect with conditions like the metabolic syndrome and the type 2 diabetes?
Right. As I said, Ashutosh, I mean, these organisms play a very important role in our wellness.
Mm,
So whenever there is a disbalance of these organisms in our system,
mm,
it is bound to have an impact.
mm.
Now we are understanding. In fact, if you do a normal Google search, you will see that there's a link of gut microbiome to every other disease that we know.
I see.
Starting from your intestinal diseases like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis to IBS, constipation, to anxiety, depression,
Mm,
psoriasis. You just name it. You name
mm.
any disease, do a Google search, you will see there's a gut microbiome linked to it. Whether that is a association or a causation, that is
Yeah.
for research to find out. And
Mm,
there have been many research done which have shown that many of these organisms are actually causing these kind of disease.
mm,
Anyway, now coming back to your question of type 2 diabetes and metabolic syndrome. So as I said earlier also, that many of these organisms are important in producing certain metabolites. And these metabolites are very important to keep our body healthy.
mm,
Without going into much details, I think it will be very technical, like the
mm,
role of succinate, role
mm,
of
mm.
butyrate and propionate.
Sure, sure.
These microorganisms play an important role. So uh, our emphasis is, or our premise in the microbiome domain is that whenever there is dysbiosis is a disbalance between the microorganisms, good, bad, ugly microorganisms, then it leads to certain chronic diseases.
Mm,
So if you can bring back the balance, then you can probably get rid of many of the diseases, or your symptoms can be alleviated. That's
yeah.
the whole premise.
Mm,
Now, food, for example, Ashutosh, plays a very, very important role in modulating the microorganisms.
mm,
As Savarin, a French philosopher, come scientist, had said that you are what you eat. So basically, you are basically feeding your microorganisms with the kind of food that they like, and those kind of microorganisms are going to grow in your body. So if you're
mm,
eating some junk food, some not so very good organisms are going to grow in your system.
mm,
And this is called dysbiosis. If this disbalance. So our
Mm,
emphasis is, uh, can we, based on your gut microbiota profile, because now
mm,
we are looking at all the microorganisms in your intestine, for example,
mm, mm,
can we modulate it by food, by giving you personalized recommendations that, hey, instead of eating, let's say, rice, because rice is probably, making certain organisms grow, which is not good for health. Can
mm,
you then, take certain other, you know, uh, food item, for example, oats. So that's what in our report we provide.
mm,
And we were getting a lot of anecdotal evidences from patients who had high type 2 high hyperglycemia,
mm,
and they came back and they used to say, our when we started following your recommendations, food recommendations, our we got more energy. We found that our HbA1c was going down. But to prove that, we did a clinical trial, and that clinical trial was published in a peer-reviewed scientific journal last year called PeerJ, where we showed that the cohort of diabetic patients who were following the personalized recommendations
mm,
had a better, drop in HbA1c,
mm.
and
Wow.
so on and so forth.
Wow. So
So
what you're saying is that uh, you know people can come to Leucine and get their own biomes checked or gut biome checked
correct.
and get some kind of a diagnosis on what can eat and what you can't eat.
Recommendations, yeah, actionable
Yeah,
recommendations.
yeah. So
Uh,
you are almost like a B2C already now, is it?
we are, and our brand is Bugspeaks that you see in my background.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, wonderful. Moving on, you also talk about balancing business growth and scientific integrity.
Yes.
Uh, Tell me a little bit more about this, particular concept that you have been following.
So, Ashutosh, the times that we are living in, how business run. Most, I mean, not said not all.
Mm.
There are ethical businesses also.
Yeah.
See, we believe that we should be very honest and sincere about what we can do and what we cannot do.
Mm.
There should not be mis-selling. There should not be upselling of anything. And we get a flag from a lot of people saying that you should at least try upselling 30%, if not, 10% of what you are doing.
Mm.
But even for our sales team, I always tell them that when you are talking to a client,
Mm.
don't promise the moon.
Mm.
Tell them right now, this is what is possible. This is what we can do.
Mm.
We are not here to say that we can cure your X disease or Y disease. This is not a diagnostic test.
Mm.
This is something. It's a new science. It's an evolving science, and we know only this much.
Mm.
If this can convince your lead, that is good enough. So
Mm.
we don't want people saying that these guys said that I can do that and this, and then ultimately it led to nothing.
Mm.
So that's where the integrity part comes in. I believe, Ashutosh, that the growth might be a bit slower because you are talking truth and you're not, saying something which is beyond science. But at the same time, it builds, value. It
Mm.
builds, builds trust on your brand. Like, if I may use the word Tata,
Mhm.
the kind of trust people have on Tata brands is based on a lot of factors, and
Okay.
one of the factors is integrity,
Yeah.
and that's what we also believe in.
Amazing. Uh, can you share some examples of the impact your work has had on individual lives or broader communities?
Of course, I mean, if you look at some of the Google reviews, you will see that the clinical trials that we did also, is a testimony of that. And there are so many, not many people have the time, or they're very, they're not keen on writing it or putting it across on the net.
Mm.
But people do come back and say, that, my energy levels have gone up.
Mm.
I was struggling with this issue for the last 30 years, and
Mm.
now I'm feeling so great. So these kind of things actually make our lives better
Mm.
as an individual, as a company, that we are touching so many lives in positive manner, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
that's what I think science should do, right? I mean, the kind of money or effort that we have spent in studying science
Mm.
should be ultimately translated to the betterment of everyone, not only
Right.
humankind, for animal
Right.
kind, for
Mm.
nature, for everyone.
Mm. Mm.
So it's a small step from
Yeah,
our side, and that's how it is.
very interesting. And tell me, how are we in India with leaders like Leucine, positioned in microbiome research when you compare ourselves to global players?
Of course. We are the flag bearers of the microbiome research from India, to be very frank.
Okay.
As I said, when we started, there was only one company in the world, which was
Mm.
Ubiome, and
Mm.
we were probably one of the very first few companies across the world.
Mm.
We are a brand which is well known across the world for doing good work on microbiome. Of course, we have miles to go. This is a science. This is constantly evolving. This is science that requires a lot of complex interplay of different faculties, and we have to also keep up with that. But I'm happy to share that we possess the largest database of microbiome data in India and of course South Asia. We are exporting this test to countries like UAE, Qatar,
Mm.
Brazil, and Philippines, Thailand, and recently Bulgaria. We have started,
Mm.
talking to a partner. So slowly, we are taking the microbiome science that we understand to the world.
Mm.
So we are definitely one of the major players in this domain in the world right now.
Amazing. And other than the one brand that you spoke about, which is
Bugspeaks.
Bugpea, what are the other products of your
Yeah.
company?
So Bugspeaks basically is the brand which is selling the test, the
Mm.
gut microbiome test. We are also coming up with a skin microbiome test.
Mm.
Will be again Bugspeaks skin microbiome test, followed by vaginal microbiome test and the oral microbiome test. So we are trying to capture all the microbiome niche areas which are relevant
Mm.
and can be non-invasively detected.
Mm.
So all these tests are basically under the brand name of Bugspeaks.
Mm.
And as I mentioned, we created another brand called Richbiome, Rychbiome. This
Mm.
was a nutraceutical brand created uh, with the aim of developing products based on the microbiome science or microbiome data.
Mm.
So that's the another brand. The first product that we launched in 2021 under that brand was a synbiotic. Synbiotic meaning it's a combination of probiotics and prebiotics.
Mm.
It was aptly called Richbiome Indus because it was coming from India.
Mm.
And now in that category also we have around 7 SKUs or 7 different products, starting from a skin microbiome balancing cream to a probiotic which is good for lungs,
Mm.
or it helps the gut lung axis, and so on and so forth. So these are the two major brands. The
Mm.
Bugspeaks focuses on the test and the Richbiome focuses on the products.
Mm. And are these products available for consumers to buy
Of
on
course.
Amazon or
Of
something?
course. Yeah. So, see, Bugspeaks, Richbum, both are available on Amazon as well as on our site,
Mm.
and different, retail sites.
Mm.
So yeah, of
Okay.
course.
Okay. Wonderful. So you said one brand is Bugspeed and the second one for my viewers and listeners again?
Rich Biome. It is Rich Biome.
RYCH?
RYCHBIOME.
BIOME. Okay, thank you. So, all my viewers and listeners, please check out Bugspeed and Rich Biome. I'm going to check them myself. I've
So
got
if
time
you
for
go
one more.
to
Sorry,
yes,
go ahead,
if you
please.
if you go to Bugspeaks website, it is Bugspeaks.
Mm.
There's a Rich Biome category there itself.
Okay.
So
And the Bugspeak website is bugspeak.com.
yeah, bugspeaks.com.
SPEAK.com.
PEAKS.
Speaks. Okay.
Yes.
.com. Okay, got it. Got it. Wonderful. Thank you. So, Dr. Debjit, I have time for one more question. And this is that what do you see as the future of microbiome science, where you are such a major player over the next few years from India and the world?
Um, so Ashutosh, I believe that with volume, the kind of tests that we are developing will be integrated and adopted much more.
Mm.
Because this is not typical blood test, right? It's a test which is giving you a lot of insights about your health,
Mm.
and it is also giving you some actionable inputs. It's not
Mm.
that we are saying that you have X bacteria and Y viruses and Z protozoa and that's it. We are
Mm.
also telling you that how this information is impacting your health
Mm.
and what you can do to improve it further. That is the probiotics that you can take, the food that you should take or avoid, and so on and so forth. So I believe that BugSpeaks or similar tests in the market are going to make much more headway. It will be integrated more and adopted more. I still remember when HbA1c, which is now a well-known biomarker in type 2 diabetes detection, when that came into the picture, it was costly and people were still doing fasting and PP, postprandial. Right? Now people do HbA1c. So similarly, this kind of test will be much more adopted. Secondly, as I said, these gut microbiome especially is integrated to lot of different health conditions, starting from your intestine to your mental health. I'm sure that these kind of tests will therefore be helpful in all different conditions as we move on.
Very interesting.
But the most important part, Ashutosh, is the drug discovery part. So with more and more data that we are looking at, or when we will look at, the microbiome-based therapeutics can be a game changer in conditions like cancer, anxiety, depression, etc. So in the next 5 years, two things are going to happen. Microbiome testing will be adopted more. It will be mainstreamed. And secondly, you might see new therapeutic solutions coming based on the microbiome science.
Amazing. Amazing. And on that note, Debjyoti, I just want to say what a fascinating conversation this has been. We've often heard with very limited understanding that how important our gut is. And today you've really spoken and we could have gone into much, much more detail except for the time, but there seems to be a link or a bridge between the gut and every single organ of our body. And I'm sure there's so much more that we viewers and listeners can deep dive and understand more about the amazing work that your co-founders are doing at Leucine. Thank you again for speaking to me, and good luck to you.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.